All right, page 2526 of page 1127. We've just got a couple lessons left here, and this is doing some operations with imaginary numbers. When we put a real number with an imaginary number, it's called a complex number. So in the set of real numbers, we had rational numbers, we had irrational numbers, but when we start adding this whole set of imaginary numbers to a real number, we just kind of link them together like this. The real part and the imaginary part, put them in parentheses. We always do the real part first and then the imaginary part listed second. But each of these is called a complex number. So that's the number set. So I'm technically adding three complex numbers. This one's subtracting, but let's see what happens here. What we do is we take the real parts and just add them together. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute this negative, so it changes both of these to become their opposites, right? This negative makes this negative makes this negative a positive. So I'm going to add 2 plus 7, so I get 9, 9 minus 3, 6. Now I'm going to go back and add negative 4i plus 8i, which is 4i, kind of like 4 i's here, right? And add the 4i to the 8i, and we have 12i. Can we simplify that any further? Actually, no. That's it, we're done. So you just add the real parts together, being careful if you have to distribute a negative sign. Add the three imaginary parts together, and nothing more you can do. All right, so I just have a few of those. They're not hard, okay? Like I said, it's different. It's a little mind-bending to think about imaginary numbers, but the math that you actually do is pretty easy. Now, what if we're multiplying two complex numbers together? This is cool. We keep using the FOIL method. 3 times negative 2 is the first term, so we get negative 6. We do the outer, so 3 times 6i is 18i. The inner is negative 8i. And then the last, now watch this, 4i times 6i, so 24i squared. Now do you remember what I squared was? We talked about this in the last lesson. It's like saying the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1. And so that negative 1 pops out. So this whole thing here becomes negative, and so it's negative 24. So I have negative 6. I'm going to go ahead and put these two together here and get 10i. And now I can combine the negative 6 and the negative 24 and get 10i minus 30. Did you see my mistake? If you check the score key, it's not going to look like that. And the reason is the real part needs to come first and the imaginary part second. So we can just rewrite it, negative 30 plus 10i. And again, your brain might think, oh, but I can factor a 10 out of that or reduce it by 10. No, we can't, okay? We can't do that with these. We just leave the answer in the simplest form for the real part and the simplest form for the imaginary part. But be careful, whenever you're doing these FOIL methods, you should end up with two I terms, and then you should end up with an I squared, and that squared makes that term change to its opposite. If this had been negative, now it would become positive. In this case, it became negative. All right, again, not too many to do, and you'll finish that. I'm going to make one more video, and we're going to be done with 1127. There's one more concept we need to talk about, and then you're ready for the last checkup, self-test, pace test.